Will wisdom teeth cause your teeth to shift? Can you get stuck kissing someone with braces? Can your braces set off a metal detector? And do you need a new wire at every single appointment? Well, brace yourself. You see what I did there? Because in today's episode, we're going to debunk 10 of the most common braces myths. So let's go. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Braces Explained. I hope you all had an awesome week, and for those of you that celebrate, I hope you guys all had an awesome Christmas. Don't forget, it is the season of giving, so on that note of giving, why don't you go down there and give this video a thumbs up, as well as hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And don't forget to give back to yourself. Recently, I put a link in the bottom of all these videos to a free Robinhood stock, so go down there, join Robinhood, start investing in yourself, and set some goals for your investing future in 2021. Alright, so in today's video, we're going to address 10 of the most popular braces myths. We're going to go through and debunk them and see which one of these myths are actually not a myth. Maybe they are true. I'm going to go ahead and put the timestamps out in this corner so you can jump to whichever myth that you want to see debunked. Now, this isn't all the myths about braces. I'm sure there are hundreds, if not thousands of myths online. So if I don't answer a myth that you guys have heard about, please let me know in the comments of today's video. I'll do my best to address it in a future video. But we're going to go ahead and get started. The first myth is something that I've kind of debunked in a previous video, but that is braces are only for teens and kids. Now, in a previous video, I've told you that this is absolutely not true. Braces can be used for people of all ages, but there is a caveat. On top of needing to have healthy gums and teeth and all those things that we've talked about in a previous video, there are certain things that are restricted to only kids and teens. These are specific movements that have to do with orthopedic changes, meaning if you want to expand the upper jaw, for example, if you want to use a dental expander, to get a true skeletal expansion, you can't be an adult. This doesn't mean that expansion is totally out the window when you get older, but to have good skeletal expansion, predictably, you have to be a younger patient. This is someone that's in their early teens or younger. This doesn't mean that you're completely out of the running if you're an adult. You still can have expansion of the maxilla using things like mini screws or surgery, but generally this myth is not true. You can have braces at any age of life, but there are certain restrictions with certain types of movements that we could do as you get older. Like I've always said, there's never an age that's too old to take care of yourself, and I think that's something that's really important to take away from this. So this is absolutely a myth, minus that little caveat. The second myth I want to address is that there is a due date, meaning that there is a day that you will get your braces off. And this is not true at all. Now, as orthodontists, at our consultation and in our early treatment planning, we come up with an estimate of how long your treatment will take. But this is an estimate, and there are so many factors that can make this treatment longer or shorter. Some things that can make your treatment last longer are things like if you're not following your orthodontist instructions, if you're eating foods that you shouldn't be, if you're not showing up to appointments, if you're breaking brackets, if you're not maintaining good oral hygiene. I've addressed all of these in a previous video where we talked about things that can make your treatment last longer. But on the flip side, there's things that can make your treatment go by quicker. And that is basically all the opposites of the things I just talked about. If you make it to your appointments, show up on time, maintain stellar hygiene, follow your orthodontist instructions, these are all tips and tricks that can make your braces come off quicker. But what I see on like the Braces Club and other online forums are people saying like, oh my gosh, only 2 months till my braces come off, or only 3 months till my braces come off. And while this may be true, there isn't a set deadline. When we say your treatment will be 18 months or 12 months or 2 years, these are estimates. We want to get you done in that time, and we'd love to get you done quicker. But there's some things that are totally out of our control. Some people's bone biology is different from other people's, meaning that tooth movement might be quicker in person A versus person B. And there's no fixed way of knowing that before we get started with your treatment. So although yes, we would want to get you done by your due date, and ideally sooner, there are cases where your treatment may go longer, and that may or may not be your fault or your orthodontist's fault. It may just be simple biology. The third myth I want to debunk is something that I've talked about in a previous video, but that is wisdom teeth causing your teeth to shift after braces. And this is a long time myth that people have been talking about for ages, and it's not true. Wisdom teeth do not cause your teeth to shift after your braces come off. What does cause your teeth to shift after the braces come off, though, is not wearing your retainer. And that's because there's constantly changing forces between your tongue, your cheeks, your lips, and these forces are put on the teeth, and if the lips and the cheeks overpower the tongue, well, the teeth will go inward. On the flip side, if the tongue overpowers the cheeks and lips, then you'll develop spacing because the force will be to push your teeth outward. The only way to predictably maintain your braces result, though, is to wear the retainers like your orthodontist prescribed. So be sure to talk to him or her about the ideal way of retaining your result. Most of the time, I'd say all of the time, that people say, oh, my wisdom teeth came in and caused my teeth to shift, it's because they didn't wear their retainer as they should have. The eruptive force isn't strong enough to cause all your teeth to shift forward and crowd up. It's just not possible. And this has been backed up by a bunch of research over time. So let's hop on to myth number 4, and that is your braces wire has to be changed at every appointment. I see this question asked a ton on YouTube and on the Braces Club, and this is not necessarily true. There are certain goals that your orthodontist wants to achieve with a wire, and sometimes that wire isn't completely done doing its job at each appointment. This means that if you start off with one wire and at your next appointment that wire is still working and we're not ready to jump up to the next wire, well, we're going to reuse that wire. We're going to tighten it into the braces to make sure that it's expressing that force. But a lot of the times we might not be ready to jump up to the next wire. Or if you're on a wire and we're trying to close space, there's no need to go to a bigger wire. So this is a myth that a lot of people fall victim to. They think, oh my God, I went to my appointment and they didn't change my wire. I'm not making any progress. Or I went to my appointment and I don't feel pain. After my appointment, I'm not making progress. You don't have to feel pain. You don't need to have a new wire. Your orthodontist is making progress on your case. So trust the process. Just because you didn't get a new wire or you didn't feel discomfort or you didn't get something new doesn't mean that you're not getting progress. By simply refreshing those color ties or refreshing your power chains or things like that at your appointment, your orthodontist may be achieving that result that they're aiming for. So don't get caught up in the process of needing something new at every appointment. It's just not necessary. And myth number 5 goes way back. This is something that's been around for decades. And that is, if you kiss someone with braces and you have braces, that your braces can get stuck together. And while back in the day this was very much true, it's not as common these days. And the reason I'm saying it was possible back in the day is because braces used to be way more bulky. They used to have a lot more hooks and clips and things like that, where you actually could get stuck with someone, which I can't even imagine how embarrassing of a story that would be to tell. But nowadays, this isn't as likely. This is because braces are a lot more sleek. They're a lot more close to your teeth, so they don't stick out as much. Is it possible? Yeah, I guess it's still possible with like the hooks on your brackets. You might be able to get hooked on another wire. But a lot of times what would happen if this was to occur, which I've never had this happen, but if it was to occur, I can imagine the bracket would break before, you're being stuck. Back in the day, we actually used to use bands around every tooth. And if you guys remember what bands were from a previous video, like way back, they're actually rings that go around the teeth. So those wouldn't pop off the teeth as easily. So if you got stuck, you were pretty stuck. So it's good that this isn't as big of a problem anymore. So yes, this is a myth, but I guess it still could kind of be possible. So I'll put this as a partial myth. Moving on to myth number 6. And this is something that actually was brought up by one of my patients the other day. And this is the myth that you have to have no overbite when you finish your treatment. And this is not true at all. What some patients expect is that they think that their teeth should end like this, with an edge-to-edge bite, okay? Like that. And that is not how your bite should be finished. You want to have some vertical and horizontal overbite when you're completed with your treatment. And this is because this puts the teeth at a very favorable position to not have any wear of the teeth, any chipping of the teeth. It makes it so that the teeth all protect one another when they're biting, and makes it so you have a stable, healthy, and functional bite. So although you shouldn't have a huge overbite or a deep bite or things like that, everyone should have some overbite and some overjet. And the amount of overbite and overjet that's perfect for you is really case dependent. So I would ask your orthodontist about that to know which one's perfect for you. Moving on to myth number 7, and that is, will my braces set off the metal detectors at an airport? And I know not a lot of us are traveling these days or going through the TSA, but no, your braces will not set off the metal detector at an airport. This is because you need to have a high level of metal density to set these things off. So that's why like zippers in your pants won't set off a metal detector. There's metal in them, but it's not enough to set off a metal detector because of the threshold of it. I've heard some people that have like a bunch of jewelry on and braces, maybe that might set off the metal detector because that's a lot of metal going on your head area. But most of the time, I'd say like 99% of the time, your braces will not set off the metal detector, so it's nothing to be worried about there, okay? Once this pandemic is all over with, you could travel worry-free with your braces, all right? Don't worry about that. Which brings me on to myth number 8. And this is one that's actually really interesting and has been brought up on our channel a number of times. And this is, does the direction that I put the rubber bands on affect the tooth movement? So what I mean by this is if you're wearing class 2 rubber bands, which go from your upper canines to your lower molars, if you put it from the molar to your canine, will it work differently than if you put it from your canine to your molar? And someone actually asked me this in this last week on my last video. And no, this doesn't matter how you put this on. Because the rubber band, as you talk or move your jaw or things like that, it'll restabilize itself and make it so it's delivering a force that's consistent, okay? So don't worry if you start from the molar and go up to your canine, or start from the canine and go back to your molar. Whichever way is easiest for you to put it on that way, as long as your elastics are on your teeth and on the right teeth that your orthodontist asks you to put them on, and you're wearing them for the amount of time that your orthodontist asked you to, you will get the result that you were supposed to. So don't worry about what teeth you put it on first, it will all be okay. On to number 9. Chewing gum will not affect my braces journey. Myth. Chewing gum will definitely affect your braces journey. This is because it can cause a number of different things. The first being, if you're chewing gum and that gum gets a little bit hard, what it could do is it can actually bend the wire. And if you bend the wire or break the bracket or things like that, not only will you slow down certain movements, you might actually cause movements that you don't even want to achieve. So let's say you put a bend in the wire. Now that bent wire is delivering a force to the teeth that shouldn't be delivered to the force. This is much like eating foods that are hard or crunchy. They can break brackets and they can also bend the wire to make it so that you're receiving forces that your orthodontist doesn't want you to have. On top of all of this, what the gum can actually do is they can actually go into the molar tubes in the back where your wire is going through and cause the wire to not be able to move. It can basically jam up the wire so that no tooth movement is occurring at all. So please avoid chewing gum with braces. It can not only cause movements that you don't want, but it can also slow down movement, stop movement. It's just a bad idea. So please avoid that and all foods that your orthodontist is asking you to avoid during your braces journey. It's for your own good and it's to make it so your treatment goes as smoothly as possible. And the last myth I want to address, myth number 10 is that you cannot play sports with braces. That's not true. You can definitely play sports with braces, but if you're playing a high impact, high contact sport, I highly recommend that you get something like a mouth guard. I have a video where I talked about the mouth guard that I think is best for braces. And the reason I think this mouth guard is the best is because it allows the teeth to move, but it still stays attached to your mouth and protects your teeth with the braces on. You don't want to go and get those boil and bite mouth guards from the sports store. The reason is because if you just boil these things and shape them around your teeth, well, one, if you shape it around the braces, you might not be able to get this thing off. This is because as you boil it and it forms around your teeth and braces, it'll harden. And if you didn't have any braces on, that's no problem. It'll help make it retentive. But if you have braces on, you might not be able to get this thing off and you have to go to your dentist and they might have to remove it somehow. And second of all, even if it doesn't cover the braces, but it holds your teeth in a certain position, well, it's basically going to stop all tooth movement whenever you're wearing the mouth guard. And it probably won't fit after a couple of days because your teeth are constantly shifting, but the mouth guard will be made to where your teeth were when you did the boil and bite. So if you are going to be playing sports, get a mouth guard. Check out my video where I talk about mouth guards. I go over all the different ones from this one company that is the only company that's approved by the American Association of Orthodontics. So please check that out. If you're going to play sports, definitely get a mouth guard, especially if it's a high impact contact sport. Okay. And that's pretty much it. Those are the 10 myths that I get asked a lot about braces and I wanted to debunk in today's video. If there are any myths that I didn't address, please let me know in the comments of today's video and I will do my best to make a part 2 and answer these questions for you guys. If you guys enjoyed it, go down there and give this video a thumbs up, as well as hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and share with a friend, and I will catch you guys next week on another episode of Braces Explained. But for now, Dr. Greg out.